The House Intelligence Committee made numerous criminal referrals back in 17 and 18, 19, 20. I don't know what happened to those. You can start to begin to put the pieces together to what I know was a grand conspiracy by probably 2 to 3 dozen people. After all this information is laid out, you'll begin to see the people who abused their power and see the people that broke the law.
Well, the investigation into the Russia hoax is heating up as congressional committees receive a trove of new documents implicating a major figure in the Obama administration. Hello, everyone. I'm Lisa Booth, along with Griff Jenkins, Dr. Nicole Saphier, and Gianno Caldwell, and this is the Big Weekend Show. The Department of Justice has already opened a federal grand jury investigation into former Obama cabinet members, John Brennan, James Clapper, and James Comey. As reported yesterday, Attorney General Pam Bondi gave the House and Senate Judiciary Committees new declassified FBI memos that indicate Comey leaked classified information to the media before the 2016 election. House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan told us last night that the walls could be closing in on the former FBI director. Watch. If the FBI has definitive evidence that former FBI Director James Comey leaked classified information, why hasn't his house been raided, or why hasn't he been arrested?
Well, it may be. We learned that Comey leaked classified information. At least that's what it appears. Jim Comey maybe faces some real, real concern here based on Pam Bondi putting this team together and looking into all this.
So, Nicole, the Attorney General Pam Bondi has authorized Department of Justice to bring this to a federal grand jury. So the federal grand jury will hear the evidence, look at the evidence, and then figure out if it constitutes federal crimes for these 3 men. What do you think? What do you make of that?
I find it interesting, and especially after our conversation last night with Congressman Jordan, is that what is the end point here? What are we looking at? Are we actually going to see charges be brought? I mean, we're going on a decade now. You mentioned, Griff, earlier, is there some sort of statute of limitations there? But on top of that, it is transparency and what really surrounded the 2016 election, because the lead up to that election has fractured our nation, and we are not anywhere close to healing that wound. And so it is imperative that we get the truth out, and we see that the people behind the scenes who are doing what they could to destroy Trump, and whether it was leaking classified documents or whatnot, but it is imperative that even if no federal charges can be brought, that transparency and honesty and openness with the American people as to what led up to that election happens.
Yeah, Griff, one point that has been brought up is that potentially some of these crimes potential crimes going back to either the first election or the first campaign or the first administration might be beyond the typical 5-year statute of limitations for federal crimes. But, looking at this, how do you make the determination between, maybe fracturing the nation or sort of driving political divisions, but while also holding people accountable who maybe did bad things?
Yeah, exactly, Lisa. And to Nicole's point, we heard so much about the Russia hoax, so much about the Steele dossier, then it sort of faded. And I was in the White House in the briefing room when all of a sudden in walks DNI Tulsi Gabbard, and we all looked at each other and said, this is going to get interesting. And she began to unload all of the findings of some of the stuff that we're now talking about, which was then referred to the DOJ. And so whether or not, I'm not clear on if there were statute of limitations that prohibit existing cases versus what, based on new information, particularly as it relates to the Russia hoax, as Chairman Jordan was saying last night, James Comey may have a real problem. Brennan may have a real problem based on particularly statements that they made under oath to Congress and what they did, what they said they did, and what they actually did. And so, it's a wait and see what comes out of the referrals to the Justice Department. But one thing is for sure, it brought back into light all of what the country went through, and a lot of people want to see this through, want answers, and many also feel that they want to see somebody held accountable and likely charged.
Gianna, what answers do you want?
Well, I think Griff makes a really solid point, and one that I was thinking of. I'm sure there's conservatives across the country that are listening to this conversation, and they're saying, yeah, we hear about this all the time, whether it be Brennan, Clapper, or Comey, something they've done, or even as an example, the IRS, remember when they were investigating Tea Party groups, or the debanking that goes on across this country or has gone on across this country for those that are conservative, and they say nothing ever happens. Steve Bannon goes to jail for not testifying before Congress, but everyone else, Democrat-wise, can do it, and there's no accountability. I think Pam Bondi, who I trust and believe in, has a really big job, and it's one in which we got to pour all these resources into these cases to ensure that if there's been any wrongdoing, as it appears to be, that these folks should be held accountable, and that means jail time.
But I also think, real quick, I think it is most important, Nicole, to go after people in these top positions, because if the FBI director is leaking classified information, what hope do we have as a country? I mean, these are the people who are leaders for these various committees, for these departments of government. They should be the ones that are following the rules and the laws.
Well, and fortunately, leadership positions, they're the ones who are the most politicized, right? They're the most influenced by who is in the White House and who's in political power. And the people who are under the leadership, those tend to be the hardest working, most honest people. And unfortunately, the FBI, the DOJ, and a lot have gotten a bad rap because of the failures of their leadership. And one of the concerns that I have right now, are we doing all of this for nothing? Because will anyone believe anything, that anyone other than a Republican believe what comes from Attorney General Pam Bondi? Because just like when Biden had his DOJ, you know, the pendulum goes both ways. And so you want the entire country to believe it. So they have to make sure that they're doing everything by the book. And it can't just be about salacious headlines. We have to actually see the evidence that points to misconduct by these individuals.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.